I'm gonna get dragged in the comments, and I'm not excited, but whatever. I don't care. This is Girlhood Journals. We tell the truth. All right, so if you read the title, you're definitely having a lot of questions, and I'm about to answer all of them. I figured that this would be a cute, little idea for us to, sit down, chat, do our skincare together, wind down, hang out on this Friday night or Thursday night or Saturday, whatever night you're watching this on. Pretend like I'm there because I am there, and we're just gonna talk, unpack, and we're gonna basically get into all the reasons why I date men 10 years older than me. Okay, so I'll start with the biggest thing. First of all, if you guessed it in the comments, you are correct. Ding, ding, ding. I don't have a father figure. I know. I'm going to address that right now because I know that's always everybody's number one question. Is there a father in the home? Is there a father in the home? No, there is not. There is no father figure in the home. I did not grow up with a father figure present in my home consistently. So I do think when people talk about age gap relationships and they always mention that sometimes it can be born out of an emotional trauma, I definitely see and understand their point and where they're coming from, because that is a part of the reason for me, but not the sole reason. I think there are certain things that will go on to play an even bigger factor in that decision. And as we get more into the story, you'll understand why I say that. Another huge part of my decision to stop dating younger, or in my age class as people would call it, is just the maturity level. I'm one of those people that I grew up very fast at a very early age. I had to be an adult very early in my life, and as a result of that, it's already psychologically proven that men just mentally mature slower than women. But I feel like when you have this added complexity of being a child in adult situations, you kind of just get this I don't know what to call it. I guess wisdom, experience. I know that nobody at 20 is going to have the same knowledge level or experience level, I guess, at 30. But it's also I don't feel like I can connect with any guy my age. It's really weird. Maybe here and there I'll get a gem, but it just seems like everybody's maturity around me is so stagnant, and it honestly feels frustrating to talk to them sometimes, guys. It literally sometimes feels frustrating to talk to the men because it's just your IQ, what is wrong with you? I don't know. I just feel like sometimes at different maturity levels, it's hard to connect with other people who are not on your maturity level. And as someone who had to grow up very early, very quickly, I feel like when I go to look for, even try to pursue relationships in my demographic or age demographic, it's I feel like I'm talking to a wall. Genuinely, guys, I feel like I'm talking to a wall. I don't feel connected or related about literally anything. I just feel like once you actually take that step towards being in a real relationship, it's like a commitment. You've agreed and I've agreed. So if we're going to do this, we're going to do it together with each other in mind at the forefront. And that's why we say if you're not ready to make that commitment, then don't make it, because literally nobody's forcing you to. But with that being said, a lot of people, I feel like in their early 20s or even in their middle 20s, even going into some of their late 20s, they're figuring it out. I always hear people say your 20s is supposed to be figure out who you are, figure out what you like. And I definitely think you can do that. I definitely think figuring out who you are and what you want to be and where you want to go is super important. But in that same breath, I feel like I've known who I am for a very long time now. I feel like ever since I was a child, I've had an understanding of who I am. I might still be discovering things that I want to do, and I might have lost myself along the way. But at the end of the day, I could always remember who I am to my core, my pillars, what's important to me. And I just wonder, does anybody else that's 20 maybe feel like that they found it? I feel like when you have that strong understanding of who you are at a very early age, it's hard to coexist in a relationship with people who are still figuring out who they are. What are their core pillars? What do they believe? What are their fundamentals? It almost feels like just a big imbalance. And when you're dating to marry, it can be very frustrating dealing with that, y'all. Sometimes I talk to men, especially the ones that I used to date, because I used to date in my age bracket all the time. And I just will always find myself being you are so fucking stupid. Like, or you have no idea who you are, and that's crazy to me. Like, you've never even taken 10 minutes to sit and think about what do you like. Like, I remember one time I asked a guy, like, okay, who are you though? Like, describe yourself. And instead of describing himself, you know what he did? He described everything that he did. He didn't describe who he was, he described what he does. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference? It's so disheartening to me when I hear that sometimes. Not because that it's incorrect, like you should be finding yourself in your 20s, but it just makes me kind of go into like a disassociative state because I feel like I'm repeating myself on cycles. Like I started to feel like I was repeating myself on cycles. I would be like, it's okay, like you'll figure it out, like have you thought about this? And I also started to just feel like as a young woman who is mature for her age, it literally started to feel like I was taking on a mother role or like a therapist role onto these men. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like this is not what I want. So I feel like the next thing I'm going to touch on is kind of sad to say, but honestly, security. Like I feel like when I date older or when people date older, like it's just a level of security that's there that doesn't always exist with younger guys because you're dating someone, I guess, who has a little bit more established, or at least that's how I like to think about it sometimes, or you're dating someone who can do a little bit more for you, who can take you out to nicer restaurants, who could take you to vacations, who if you needed $100 or $300 you could depend on. It almost feels like you have this steady rock. Now, it wouldn't be right for me to come on here and talk about why I date men as if I'm promoting it when I'm really not. I'm just want to have an open conversation. But I also think it's important for me to talk about some of the cons. So I would honestly say one of the biggest cons is the emotional roller coaster that you can get yourself on sometimes can be a lot. I always tell people this when I get into this topic. Every man has his issues, and I do personally feel like the older you date, the more complex the issues are. Now, complex doesn't necessarily mean bad or worse. It just simply means these fundamental traumas or fundamental issues may have a lot more nuance and intricacy in back and forth and black and white and gray area than someone who is 22 years old and still adapting and learning about life. So I definitely feel like sometimes when I've gotten into relationships with older men or older guys, I've always been like, okay, like he's fucking crazy, like really crazy, like he's actually really fucking crazy, and he's trying to manipulate me. Speaking of manipulation, that brings me to my second point. I do have to agree with the critics. When I do date older guys, I do often find that I run into a lot more manipulative, narcissistic, sociopathic behaviors. For me, I'm really into psychology, I'm really into the mind, and I'm just really mindful of how men interact with me because I do understand that men and women see relationships totally different, and there is like a little bit of a predatory nature depending on how far your age gap is. Like mine's is 10 years, so I feel like we're entering kind of into that world. But predatory could also just be feeling like, oh, this person is going to be easy for me to gaslight and control. And the last point I want to make is I do feel like there is a bit of a common joke that men who are older and still single are usually obsessed with their mothers, and I have to agree with the critics. I do find that when I date older guys, it's like the relationships they have with their moms are so fucking weird. And I don't even know if that's just reserved to older guys because I've also dated younger guys my age whose moms are fucking insane. Like actually batshit crazy. But I do find the vast majority of older guys usually either have very severe mommy issues or have very odd relationships with their moms. And I don't know what that is about. Sometimes I think it's a codependency thing. Sometimes I think that these moms are raising these boys to be their son, and that's why they are the way that they are. But I would be sitting here lying and remiss to tell you that their moms weren't oddballs. So, like, overall, there's a lot more deep rooted issues that I didn't really get into today. There's a lot of things that I've seen growing up in my life, a lot of domestic abuse, a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of introduction to explicit content way too early, a lot of unfiltered access to the internet that I do think has also kind of distorted my brain in a way. I think sometimes when you're exposed to things way too early, the way that you perceive them will solely be off of how you were introduced to them. And I do think that that plays a part in my mindset sometimes. However, I definitely thought this could be like a fun, cool, chill, like girl to girl, like girl talk, girl chit chat, like me and you between us, sister. Like little talk for us to kind of have, I guess, an open discussion about this. Sometimes I feel like the spectrum is either like super like this is no and yeah, you're, and the other side is like, yes, like I totally agree, date older. And I wonder if there's a middle ground. For me personally, I just feel like this is what makes me happy. I am an adult, so I am going to do the things in my life that at that moment feel like they're right for me. However, I'm always open to education, learning, and hearing more about it. But I don't know, guys. I don't know. Okay, sisters, so that's going to be all for this video today. Like I said, please be sure to go ahead and let me know your thoughts down below. Give me your comments, your feedback. Let's have like a girlhood talk. This is what this is. This is Girlhood Journals. This is what we do. We talk, we chit chat, we figure it out. We love each other. You're my sister. This is Girlhood Journals. Be sure to follow me on all socials. Instagram at the Santana Ryan. YouTube at Girlhood Journals. And then anywhere else that you can find me, might as well follow me there too. That is going to be all. I love you all to the absolutely very most. I am about to go watch reruns of The Nanny with Fran Drescher, and I hope you all have an amazing night. Bye.
I am fucking crazy. But I am free.